Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. The St. Lucia Labour Party says the antagonistic relationship between the media and the current UWP government, its surrogates and supporters continues to be a cause for concern for the party. The statement was issued in light of the recent confrontations with journalists Tricia Lionel and Miguel Fevrier. Lionel was threatened by a member of the UWP following a Vieux-Fort North meeting, and Fevrier was chastised and ridiculed by Castries Southeast MP Guy Joseph. The SLP says in a free and democratic country, the press remains important as a watchdog on behalf of citizens. The St. Lucia Labour Party is therefore calling on the government and its surrogates to apologize for the behavior meted out to Lionel by a UWP member and to Miguel Fevrier by Guy Joseph. Now we took to the streets to get your opinion on the treatment of the two journalists and the call for an apology. Here's what you had to say.
Following two separate incidents where local journalists Tricia Lionel and Miguel Fevrier were ridiculed by affiliates of the United Workers' Party, the St. Lucia Labour Party has called for an apology from both Minister Guy Joseph and the UWP supporter at Vieux-Fort North. We asked the public, do you think an apology should be issued?
Apology, neither what happened in Vieux-Fort or neither what that took place in Mr. Guy. The Vieux-Fort thing, the journalist wasn't supposed to be there, it was private, and she knew that. She was looking for a confrontation with somebody on that day. Probably she was drunk, because I know she just be drinking, you know. And Mr. Guy, if the guy, Mr. went to jail, he's an ex-convict. And he was trying to prosecute Mr. Guy. So Mr. Guy had to do what he had to do. And Mr. Guy is right.
I always tell in man and man, I'm a political offender. You know, they have some journalists that ain't balanced. They have some journalists that is on that side, on the other side. So I don't know nothing about apologize and nothing about that, you know. That is in between the guy and the journalist. And that is all I have to say.
Whether it is the ruling party or the opposition party, I think proper courtesy should be extended to all the journalists when they are simply doing their work. And that is getting information from the politicians to the general public. I think it is wrong for any politician, whether Labour or whether UWP, to disrespect a journalist in the line of their duty, or a follower of any party to disrespect a journalist in line of their duty. I think the common courtesy should be extended to journalists when they are only seeking information for the consumption of the general public.
Very surprised that what's his name again? Yeah, Mr. Joseph should allow himself to go down to that level. You have to maintain your cool. You have to maintain your dignity as a politician. Do not just throw things at people, throw mud at people. So, in the interest of his party and his government and himself, he should apologize to the journalists.
There should be no apology because Miguel Fevrier, he did what he did. He approached the minister put it to him as is. I am not going to discuss anything with an ex-convict unless you don't renew or fix everything to come clean.
What about Tricia?
Who?
Tricia, the guy threatened to spit on her or hit her with a cane. She was just trying to do her job.
Well, I don't know anything about that, but if somebody threatens to spit on somebody, that's illegal, I must say.
Everyone must have respect for each other, okay? And everybody have their part to play in life and they're according to the nature of the work. Okay, I find the minister, brother Guy, is sure, I don't know what the difference is, but the way he approaches it, he should be a little better than this. You understand? You have to respect everybody.
Those were your responses. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzaga.
2 of 3 physical remnants of the island's past located in Choiseul have been acquired by the government. Choiseul Saltibus MP Bradley Felix says it is important to protect the patrimony of the island and preserve it for posterity.
The parliamentary representative for Choiseul Saltibus, Honorable Bradley Felix, has cleared the air on an ongoing move to protect well-known historical landmarks in his constituency, the Monsignor windmills. The 3 windmills were built by the British in the early 19th century to crush sugarcane for the production of rum as well as granulated sugar. When the parliamentary representative for the area noticed the erection of a house extremely close to one of the sugar mills, he immediately sprang into action.
2 years ago, when in driving by I recognized there was some construction, which appeared to be a house construction, right mere feet away from one of the sugar mills in Monsignor. And then in making some inquiries, I was told that the property had been sold to an individual to construct his home. In doing some additional background check, and I realized that none of the sugar mills actually belonged to the Crown, and they were all in private ownership. I immediately took whatever action that had to be taken to ensure that as a government, as a state, we actually had some sort of ownership of these landmarks, because there are certain things we believe that are too emotionally attached to your country or to your constituency that you should let fall into private hands.
Minister Felix expressed that government was only able to acquire 2 of the 3 windmills, as one of them were too far gone and the owner of the property already started a land development. He also explains that monuments like these should be protected, and this is not the first time moves have been made to protect and restore the landmarks.
As a community, it was even more important for us to actually have ownership of these sugar mills. Was just a little over 20 years ago, I remember, there was a school project that was sponsored at the time by, I think it was the RBTT Bank, where the children of the Choiseul Junior Secondary School at the time formed what is known as a human chain, where they were down into the river. They formed a chain going all the way up to the sugar mill in Monsignor. And these kids passed stones from the river from one hand to the next until they were able to lay them at the foundation of that sugar mill for restoration. It was a project that they were all very proud of, from where this windmill was, sugar mill was, to having completed it. And you realized even more the emotional attachment that it created when you had so many children in the school, and even the community were involved, in that project.
Thanks to the intervention of the parliamentary representative, arrangements have already been made between the government of St. Lucia and the owner of the house, and plans are being made to develop the site using the same foundation to create a new attraction.
The intention as a parliamentary rep, obviously with consultation and with discussion of the residents, is that we would create, in this particular one in Monsignor, we would use the structure that the gentleman had already built, which was, he had already built a foundation, he had already put up some walls. We would use the foundation as a platform to where our vendors could actually use it to sell their craft, advertise their craft. When that is not happening, we could also use it as an area where we can do our traditional festivals. And it would be a park that will be controlled by the residents, by the community, obviously to create some sort of economic activity.
The second windmill will be turned into an activity park where persons can get married and host family fun days. The minister reiterated the need to take ownership of these landmarks and that the ongoing work is to secure, preserve, and develop them so that they can ultimately benefit the community. Reporting for the Office of the Prime Minister, I am Danielle Dubois.
The president of the Vacation Rentals Association of St. Lucia, Thomas Theos, has indicated that there was much need for a representing or bargaining body for the informal accommodation sector. He notes that the sector accounts for over 80 businesses on island, and as such, there needs to be some form of standardization.
Against the backdrop of the proposal and the subsequent revocation of legislation by the government to levy the informal accommodation sector, also known as the Airbnb sector, people within that sector have decided to come together to form a representative and bargaining body. President of the non-profit team called the Vacation Rentals Association of St. Lucia, Thomas Leonce, indicated that the intention of the association will span further than just bargaining with official bodies.
The intention there is to represent and bargain on behalf of owners of all relevant public policy and regulatory processes, provide education, information and networking opportunities for membership, to speak as an authoritative voice in fostering professionalism, collaboration and growth within this sector. The mission, of course, is to provide members with a strong collective voice in order to optimize the performance of the businesses and to contribute to the development of a vibrant and sustainable tourism industry in St. Lucia.
Leos explained that many members were not against the introduction of the legislation. However, they require more consultation as well as transparency as to how the levying rate was arrived at and the penalty for non-compliance.
I don't think the members are opposed to paying a levy for providing the service, but the issue was, what is the quantum of the levy that should be put in place? Is 4% the right figure? Is 3% the right figure? Is it 6%? So we felt that there was need to have a discussion and consultation with the wider membership in order to arrive at a figure that everybody could comfortably work with. On the question of the registration, which attracted the penalty of 100,000 ECO 4-year jail term, we didn't know what the requirements for registration was, but eventually it was determined that there was quite a lot of information that needed to be put in a document in order to register. I think that was about 4 or 5 pages long. We have since engaged with the Ministry of Tourism and managed to reduce that document to 1 page.
He indicated that the focus of the association at this point of the phased reintroduction of tourism into the island is to ensure that the sector is adequately prepared to receive clients.
A lot of the efforts so far have been placed on preparing the facilities in terms of the protocols that need to be put in place to receive clients. And if I can delve quickly into that protocol, talking about how to clean the facilities, how to clean your kitchen, your bathroom, the bedrooms, how often to change your linen, what equipment you need to use, your aprons, gloves, temperature check for your clients coming in and when they're leaving as well. So quite a lot has to be done. You want to ensure that the guests are going into an environment that is safe and secure, that the facilities are kept up to a certain standard in terms of what you have in place. Do you have your fire extinguisher? What kind of cleaning regimen do you have in place? Do you have adequate security?
Leon says the association will seek to ensure that there is proper representation for the informal accommodation sector in St. Lucia. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzalez.
You're watching the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Stay with us when we come back, sports and the weather.